This is the future of Africa. In this program, we focus on Horn of Africa's political, economic, and sociocultural aspects. Let's share our vision, hopes, and professional critics. All views are stemmed. Stay with us. Ittafa, welcome to this program.
Thank you, Dr. Hussein, for inviting me again.
Yeah, Ittafa is an advocate and human rights activist. Today we'll be discussing on the peace agreement between TPLF and the Ethiopian government, as well as the current situation of Ethiopia and Oromia. But before that, it's unfair to dive into our discussion without talking about Dr. Ali Birra. Ittafa, as you know, Ali Birra, he was the voice of struggle, the king, legend and icon of music in general, and the Oromo music in particular. Among others, what makes him legendary is that his works touch upon every aspect of life: politics, economy, culture, education, unity, freedom, and what have you. Literally, nothing left untouched in his work. He was a kind of institution by himself, a walking dictionary or encyclopedia of life. Perhaps I may portray him as a powerhouse, if you like, motivating force of our struggle. I personally believe that his works and dreams will be with us forever. We need to ensure them. For sure, the liability will be on us if we fail to do so. That's how I describe him. And I would like to see or hear how you describe Ali Birra as a human rights advocate.
Thank you, Dr. Hussein. I think you did an amazing job of capturing the life, the legacy of Ali Birra in the Oromo community, Ethiopia at large, including Africa and for the world. Honestly, I couldn't say it better. You put it very well. What Ali Birra means to our nation, especially to the Oromo nation, whether it's a young generation, the old generation, everything in between. Ali Birra has captured us with his music, with his message of hope, advice of what it means to be a good citizen, a good Oromo, what it means to be an educated Oromo, what education means to the society, what culture meant for a society. Ali Birra captured everything, what a society should be all about. Ali Birra didn't focus only on the Oromo political aspect, as we usually see these days, where we're too much focused, all energy, everything that we have on our political aspect. Ali Birra, in the midst of terror, in the midst of subjugation, in the midst of everything that the Oromos have been going through, he has been the voice of reasoning into our conscience that we also have to focus on cultural aspect of life, education, business, everything, so that the Oromos are not only really focused on one side of society and ignoring the other side of society, where today that is what our society is all about. We're too focused only on one thing. Ali Birra is a well-rounded guy, a very mature guy, a well-educated, very articulate guy who always pushed us to look life at its fullest, life in all aspects. Make sure we're focusing on our religion, make sure we're focusing on our education, making sure we are focusing on our culture, on our language, Abba, Chada, everything from the Gada system. He is an amazing guy. He is a true freedom fighter. He's a true human rights activist, but he's a well-rounded. No artist in Ethiopia, no artist in Oromo nation come close to Ali Birra. in a way that he is a well-rounded, well-matured a person who understands the whole aspect of life on this earth. Well, when it comes to music, I'm a music person. I play music, I sing in the church. Ali Birra is just a legendary, a pioneer of our music. We grew up listening. Whether we want it or not, he's always in our ears. Whether we wanted to listen to him or not, he's always there in our radios, in our community, in our bars, in our school, everywhere we go. His distinct voice, his distinct melodies is always there. And as a music person, to be honest, he has a very unique melody, a very unique voice. Nobody could capture it, nobody could imitate it even today. People have done a lot in trying to do a different rendition of his songs where they try to imitate his vocals, his voices. Nobody could come close, because the range where he sings, on the high, on the low notes, he can go deep low, he can go high up, and he has that distinct voice where anybody from far distance can tell that is Ali Birra. In these days, you can listen to a song with these new singers. You can listen to a voice and say, who is that singer? He sounds like this person, he sounds like that person. That is not the case with Ali Birra. He has a very distinct voice. Nobody still come close to the notes that he hits, the notes that he sings on. He's an amazing guy, and we lost a legend, we lost a pioneer, you know, but he lived his life, he lived a legacy, and he died a natural death, which I'm thankful, because we lost a lot too early in a violence and atrocities that being committed against Oromo people. I'm glad he lived the life that he lived and died on a natural death. That is a plus. We don't get to see that these days, because we have a lot of enemies taking our young generation, such as Achalu, early in their life. So we love him, we respect him. All Oromo Nation, everybody will continue to love him and respect him, and hopefully follow in his footsteps of uplifting our community and society. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ittafa, for that description. And with that, we'll dive into our today's discussion. And as we know, recently agreement has been reached between the TPLF and the Ethiopian government. In fact, we all been advocating this, peace, peace, peace always, instead of war. And as you see, after 2 years of destroying war, now the two sides sit together and start discussing about it. And how do you see this peace agreement in general terms? We'll talk to the details of it, but in general terms, peace is what we need to promote. It's a good start, but at this stage, it's very difficult to describe its intention and future implications. But in general terms, how do you describe it?
Like you said, Dr. Hussein, peace is an essence for every nation, for every community. We all wish, we all want peace, especially for those of us who live in diaspora, in Western countries. We do understand what peace meant, what peace is all about, how society thrives in a peaceful and conducive environment. And we really would like to see if this agreement is genuine and everybody meant going to do what they said. Really, we would love to see that there's the bullets are silenced, the gun is silenced, and the Tigray mothers and fathers, girls and children live in peace. and not only Tigray, the entire Ethiopia, right? Oromia is also under constant shelling, bombardment, all that. We all would love to see the countries that is have peace, and a country that live in unity, in peace, and all that. But there is a lot of questions that is left in everybody's mind in regards to this agreement. And not only to the Oromos or the Ethiopia, even to Tigrayans. There is a lot going on even within Tigrayan community right now that is a huge confusion. They're not hearing details from their leaders. This peace agreement doesn't give you any details as to what is going to happen, how it is going to happen, how it is going to implement it. And a lot of question in regards to what is going to happen with Eritrean Defense Force in Tigray, the Amhara Special Forces in Tigray. There is a lot of details missing. So it really raised. There's more question created than really answers. So there is a lot that we can dive into and look at it, but from looking at it, it's very ambiguous. You can't really the time frames and some of the dates that were put down are very aggressive and almost sounds impossible to achieve what they're saying they're going to achieve in 5, 10, and 30 days that they outlined when it comes to this agreement. And the other point I would like to make is this agreement in its entirety looks like it's one-sided and it favors the Ethiopian government. Anybody who read the entire articles, the whole 8 pages of what is described in there, it really favors the Ethiopian government mostly. That is also actually, I think, confirmed with Getachew Reda, who said, we made a painful concession. That means they didn't get what they want, but for the sake of their people, they have to agree to what they have to agree.
Great. Now, okay. That's in general terms. Let's look at some of the specific issues. And as you have tried to indicate, the document has a number of articles over there. It starts by describing the objectives of the agreement, and then it goes on and having for about sometimes 11, 12, and up to 15, including the how of releasing the document. I would like to focus on two major things. The first one is the Constitution. The second one is DDR. In that document, if you see specifically, both sides agree to restore the Constitution. And that is a turning point for me. And it seems, again, paradox, because the PP stands for unity, as you know, one culture, one nation, one language, and so on. And the federal approach stands for a different objective. And the Constitution promotes federalism, whereby regional states are autonomous, exercise power, their culture, their own ownership, and so on. And I see a kind of contradiction, a paradox over there. That's the first thing. The second is about DDR, the disarm, demobilize, and reintegrate. These two elements seems very challenging of all the other articles. How do you see these two articles in specific terms?
I think they really did an amazing job in terms of not upsetting Eritreans, Isaias Afwerki. Some of there are few terms that they used in there in reference to constitutional order, territorial integrity, constitutional boundaries, stuff like that. Let's go to constitutional order. What is really included in there? The constitutional order should be the Tigray region government needs to be reestablished, right? That is the constitutional order, but because before the war, there is a regional government that is being in place. People in the parliament, the government of Tigray in Mekelle, and Tigray having its own special forces as similar to Oromia, Amara region, Afar, and everybody that is described as a region. So going back to constitutional order is that the Tigray regional administration need to go back to power and administer the region, in which it says there will be an interim administrative body until election is conducted. So if it is a constitutional order, then Dr. Debretsion and his team has still constitutional right to that power. Because let's even forget the election that happened right before the war, which triggered also the war, right? So constitutionally, if we look at that, they are elected by 90-something% of the Tigrayan people to govern the region. So there's nothing about that election. Is that election valid or not? That's another question, right? If that election is valid, acceptable, then the TPLF should continue to rule or govern the Tigray region.
They have agreed to nullify that election, and election will be conducted in the future. And till then,
Until then again, even before the election, the TPLF was in power, right? There is nothing that took away that. There wasn't any election or any rule or any decision, court order or anything that they can't govern anymore. So the constitutional order, then the TPLF is still the governing body for that area. So is that what it meant then, or is the government of Ethiopia is going to handpick his own cronies and put in power? So that needs to be answered. But it sounds like really, if you read details, this is kind of the discussion that is going to happen, that it says continuous dialogue as to how this happens. So this is something we can't speculate anything right now, but it sounds like they're willing to sit down, which I think they look like within 5 days to re-engage again, which it looks like in Nairobi, Kenya, it's the meeting happening. So they have to make that decision, who is going to govern until the next election. And I think that'll be very interesting to see. The other thing, the DDR is another very monumental task. And that is actually what amazed or took everybody by surprise as to how was this agreed upon? What does this disarmament, demobilizing, and reintegrate means? And in the aggressiveness of the timeline, the timeline is very aggressive. You can't disarm more than 200,000 soldiers within a month. That is almost a huge task. And the question is, with constitutional order, okay, they are mentioning about TPLF, Tigray has to have its own special forces, as he used to be, like in Oromia and Amara region. So who is going to be the special forces? Are some of these TPLF going to be converted into special forces, and some of them disarm, some of them become special forces? Or Tigray is not going to have special forces at all? So that is some of the constitutional. And then who decide who disarm and who continue to carry the gun? That is also another question. It's just very complicated, ambiguous, and it is really a huge task even to figure out that. The other thing is Tigray willing to disarm while Eritrea is in its territory, while Amhara militaries are in its territory? Are they willing to disarm? If they do, that is a very scary situation, because as we speak right now, the Eritrean Defense Force is shelling some part of Tigray. They are still looting. They are bombarding some area of Tigray. I can't see how the Tigray Defense Force is going to disarm itself within 30 days without Eritreans in the Amara Special Forces and FANOS are really removed from that region. So, and the other question becomes, really, Dr. Debretsion and Getachew Reda probably might agree and sign off on this paper. The question is, will all the Tigray Defense Force or TPLF, all the military, all the everybody that is armed right now, agree 100% and are going to disarm itself? That is also going to be another challenge. Or are we going to see a section of these military troops taking a different approach or taking matters into their hands? And the other concern is, who is, if they're going to allow everybody willing to disarm, it is going to be a chaos. Collecting all these weapons from more than 200,000, 300,000 militaries, and this could result in some arms struggling, somebody dealing, arms dealing, and people, business people getting in there. And it's just going to be a chaos unless this is really given a good time frame and done in a very meticulous way. So it is very hard to see the TPLF disarming willingly 100%, because there are a lot of situations that dictates the situation on the ground. So that is, we're going to see how that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's perfect analysis. A number of people promote, agree with the peace deal, but big question is there in terms of implementation. So we'll see when things mature. But let me ask you some related question with this. What do you think will be the implication of this for other regions like Oromia, other nations and nationalities, particularly the Oromia national regional state, because there is a continued war, which we are going to discuss in detail. Now, let me see your reflection in terms of its implication to Oromia.
If really this is implemented as agreed upon, and really the PP government achieves what he thinks he's going to achieve, for sure this will empower them, no doubt about that. This will definitely empower them, but that means they can now fully focus and engage in the other region of Ethiopia to squash the other armed group in a different part of Ethiopia. So, but at the same time, really the war between the TPLF or the TDF and the Ethiopian government is just a full-scale war with heavy artillery, tanks and everything. And when we compare that to really the guerrilla fight in Oromia, those wars have always had a different way of conducting them. So I don't think it will have a lot of impact, because the guerrilla fighters always found their own way of fighting, how to fight the government, how to really weaken the government forces and all that. So yes, the government will bring all his focus to those other regions, probably brings all his heavy fighting and all that, but I hope that they lived through this. The rebels, what they call the rebels, if it is Ola or Wabo, they lived through a lot of these kind of situations where they fought with the government, whether the government is fully engaged or not engaged. They've been through this and they have an experience on how to deal with the government. So yes, it will have for sure an heavy implication, but at the same time, the rebels or the guerrilla fighters always have their own way of fighting and their own way of their own tactics and strategies to fight the government. So that is something we're going to see, because I know the governments are saying they're going to, once they're done with the North, they will focus on Oromia region and other regions to fight all armed groups in those areas.
Yeah, great. I assume the intention is positive and genuine, and there is no deception. I think the same, we wish the same would extend to what's happening in Oromia in general terms. Now, with this, let me go to the other angle of what's happening in that nation. How do you see what's happening in Oromia currently? Because okay, in one side there is a peace agreement and great attention is there, and on the other side, war is being intensified throughout Oromia. And how do you evaluate that?
Exactly. So it looks like there is this government doesn't have any intention to extend a similar peace deal or peace offer, especially to the Ola military in Oromia region. We do hear from the Ola leadership that there are internally in secret some offers and calls to disarm and end their struggle in Oromia region. We have heard from Ola commanders that there are some secret engagement or under kind of under the shadow that they've been getting offers and calls to engage, but the Ola made clear that any deals or any meeting that they want to do has to be public, should be it's in a similar fashion that they dealt with TPLF, with the third party engaged. So we know that there are some reach out to the Ola commanders, but the Ola commanders are not willing to go on any negotiation under the table unless the third party international community is engaged. We know that the state departments have reached out to them to engage them at different times, but the Ola demand is that the negotiations has to be clear, the third party is engaged, it has to be in a manner that they just concluded with TPLF. So, but like you said, the war is intensified, especially in Walaga, especially in Shawa region, with more troops being deployed into that region, more drone attacks in that region. Recently, as you know, a few days ago, the drone attacked in Walaga, in Bila, in the city of Bila. I think the death toll now stands at 102 or more, and people are dying by the day because there is no any medical treatment. People can't go to the hospital because the closest hospital is Gimbi or Aira or Nakamte, and all roads leading to those cities where the hospitals are located are shut down, and people are just dying. The injured ones are dying for lack of medical treatment. So they are intensifying in that region because Ola controlled a lot of cities right now in Walaga, including part of Nakamt. And there are some intensified fighting happening in Shawa region. And the government is intensifying in that area too, without in their bombarding with drones in every area. So it is unfortunate where they are preaching peace in one section of the country and intensify war in the other section of the country, and they know all that. The sad thing is the international community is not giving attention to that section of Ethiopia. They're always engaged with the North, but they're not engaged with Oromia. And under that, the government is doing everything they want without any scrutiny, without any backlash or anything. So that is unfortunate, and that is the fight the Oromo people have to fight until the international community start listening, start talking about it. I think OLA is pushing on all fronts so that that is the case, and also they're fighting to do what they can to liberate the Oromo people. So
now the problem is not the fight between the two groups. The challenge is the days of innocent people. As you said, look at what has happened in Bila, and I think today in Mandi, a lot of distractions in Shawa, everywhere, even drone attack. Why killing innocent people? They are not armed, for instance, children, women, elders, and so on. The challenge is not, okay, we don't promote fight between any group. I mean, unless it's something, you see, something that has no substitute, war is always destructive. That's obvious. But now what's happening in Oromia is killing innocent people. That is my focus. How do you see that angle?
Yeah, it looks like they are very indiscriminate in their shelling. Honestly, it looks like the government doesn't care who dies, as far as it creates fear, as far as it creates similar thing in Tigray, right? The key is by killing innocent, it is creating chaos and fear in people, so people surrender. The same thing in Bila. The drone attack was in the middle of the city. It's not in the outskirts of the city or where the armed groups are. It is within the city of where people are gathered and watching what is happening in the town, and people never expected a drone will come to their town to attack them. And most of them actually were killed while trying to retrieve a dead body that was killed an hour before. People are going around trying to collect the dead bodies. And while they're doing that, another dozens of people killed again by the second round of shelling. And it sounds like it doesn't really, the government doesn't seem to care who is dead, as far as it is causing fear. And through fear, their hope is that people will surrender. People are not fighting the government. The OLA is the one fighting the government. Do people support OLA? That is a different story. And do people have to be shelled by drone because they supported a group that they want to support? That is, I think, their constitutional right to support anybody, even though the government designate them as a terrorist or something like that. So it is sad. There is no explanation except for me, I think it's just to instill fear in people to surrender. And will that happen? Will people surrender eventually? That is something we will see.
Thanks so much. And I think if we talk about peace, the government should rethink about it. Should not be after the fact. Look at what has happened in Tigray, and the same is going to happen in Oromia. After destruction, then peace talk. Instead of that, I think it's important to rethink and hope they will reconsider. Otherwise, talking about peace in Tigray and war in Oromia doesn't bring about any change in that nation in terms of peace, as far as I'm concerned. Now, let me take you to the other angle of their country. We have been talking about war. Let's talk about development, growth, and so on. I always see fallacy in that nation. Look at this. The country immersed into a deep war. Amid this war, the government claims economic growth, economic development, prosperity, and so on. I think I asked you this question last time. I'm repeating it intentionally because what's the dream over there? What's the magic over there? Would it be possible to talk about growth, development, prosperity amid this kind of war, which is destructive all through?
That is the question, right? I mean, in the last 4 years, what we've seen and learned from this government is really, it sounds like when they say Ethiopia, they're mainly saying Addis, Finfinne. It sounds like that way. Because everything they do and everything they talk about, everything they go about making some opening ceremonies and stuff like that, all around Finfinne. Okay, if we're talking about economy, Tigray is totally disengaged. Oromia, except Finfinne, is totally disengaged from economy. Which economy are we talking about? This area, the huge Ethiopian economy, is based on Oromia. And actually, a lot of the export that Ethiopia sends out to abroad, the greater percentage comes out of Wallagga region. This is the study shows. A lot of export stuff come out of Wallagga. Wallagga is totally disengaged from the economy. Really, I just don't understand which economy they talk about. The economy they talk about is whatever is really going on in Finfinne, and the little things they get, things coming from other regions. But we're totally disengaged. Oromia is totally disengaged. Tigray is totally disengaged. There is no economic growth. Yes, probably they're farming some land around Shawa region. Yes, there might be having some, like as Shimalis was talking today on his Twitter, the rice farm that they have in Shawa region that they have been doing. Yes, but does that really explain the entire economy of the country? Does that 10-hectare land of rice farming shows that we are economically growing and we are making progress? No, just because the PP probably brought a modern few farming machineries or harvesting machineries from abroad just to take a picture with it and showing us up they are making progress in economy, does that really explain Ethiopian economy? The numbers are not showing. The GDP is not showing. Every report that we hear from, whether it's an IMF, World Bank, from anywhere, it's not showing we are economically growing. We're not growing. We've been declining. Our currency is down in the drain. So they can beat the drum the whole day, but the economy is not going to move an inch. And it is not going to move until there is peace in Oromia, until there is peace in Tigray, until every productive member of the society take part in the economy. So they can beat any drum they want, but people's life is not changing. The prospect is not changing. It is right there. We talked about the numbers last time, I remember, about inflation, about the GDP, where it is right now, and unemployment and all that. So they are good at photo ops. They are good to go stand in front of a tractor or a farming machinery and make it look like all our farmers are now high-tech farmers. But the reality on the ground is different. Probably 60 to 70% of the country is disengaged from the economy.
Thank you so much. I've been teaching economics of education, and I have perhaps a kind of knowledge in relation to this, and that's why I'm always hammering this. I've never seen economic growth, economic development, and perhaps prosperity amid war, inflation, corruption, drought, famine, and so on. As you have said, the economic indicators are not telling that. The GDP of the nation, if you like, the balance of payment, the per capita income of the nation, they are not telling us that. The high level unemployment, everything is against economic growth and against economic development. I do agree with that. It's just a fallacy. just a fallacy. Let me take you to the other fallacy. That fallacy is, as I think you have heard about this, there are some claims by few people, I say few people, both from the Oromo and non-Oromos, which attempt to describe that the current government of Ethiopia is an Oromo government, and that's very okay. As far as I'm concerned, I would like to evaluate in terms of practice. For that matter, the imperial, the Mengistu Haile Mariam was drafted as Oromo, and still there are a few Oromos on power. And do you agree with this or disagree with the claim that the current government is the Oromo government?
I think people who want to say this is an Oromo government they have a lot of explaining to do, right? If this is an Oromo government, they have a lot of explaining to do than the people who say this is not an Oromo government. You and me, we talked about this last time. Do people just want an Oromo guy in power, or do they want a good governance? That is the question we have to ask ourselves these days. Like you said, from Haile Selassie to Mengistu and all that, they could be Oromo in their blood, by their blood lineage and all that. But what does Oromo mean? I mean, what does that mean for an Oromo nation? And these days, the question is really, what do people want? Just to see an Oromo guy on the throne, or do people want peace? Do people want economy? Do people want a country? Do people want to live in peace with their neighbors? So let's talk about the non-Oromo, right? The non-Oromos, yes, for them it really makes sense to label it as an Oromo government, because that really support and help their narratives that it is ethnically divided, and now the Oromos took turn, and the Oromos are abusing us. The Oromo government is abusing us, doing this. It supports their narratives. But like I said, they have a lot of explaining to do. There are more Oromos in prison than any tribe. Next to Tigray, Oromia region is the one that is in the middle of crisis, in war, in atrocities, being bombarded with drones, under heavy military. And part of Oromia is still under command, whatever they call the command. So these people have a lot of explaining to do. Okay, if this is an Oromo government, why is majority of Oromos are in prison? Compared to any tribe in Ethiopia, the Oromos are in prison in hundreds and hundreds of thousands. Why aren't the Oromos the one being bombarded with drones? Let them explain that. To those Oromos who believe this is an Oromo government, they have also a lot of explaining to do. Okay? They have a lot of explaining to do why an Oromo government is bombarding its own people. Why Oromo government is dividing and ruling Oromia by itself. Cuddling with some portion of Oromia and totally alienating and isolating another part of Oromia, and actually creating mistrust between Oromos. So people have a lot of explaining to do. This government, Abiy Ahmed, from day one, has no intention of being an Oromo government. He has never intention of, if they're thinking it is favoring Oromo. No, actually, we are being hurt right now. We are more under attack, under subjugation than any tribes in in Ethiopia. Actually, the Amhara region is the one that is enjoying the freedom right now. I would rather call him as a Amhara government because, to be honest, Fano was let loose in Ethiopia. Fano was let loose in Tigray, in Oromia, to indiscriminately kill everybody on its way and take every city, every land that he claims that is Amhara land. And Fano, in the Amhara regional state, is the one who has more power than any regional state in Ethiopia right now. It makes much more sense to say this an Amhara government or an Amhara prime minister than saying an Oromo. The fact on the ground shows that the Amharas are running the show. This is a reality. Let anybody come with a single definition why they can call this an Oromo government. No way, there is nothing. We're actually under attack, even education-wise. They're coming with a new curriculum to even halt the progress that we made in Afan Oromo. And our high schoolers can't even take the national examination within their own cities. Oromia is a big treason. And Amara region is the one who is going in every region attacking everybody. Benishangul Gumuz, Oromo, Tigray, Afar, they are attacking everybody like a mad dog, empowered and armed by the government. So there is no a single logical statement for somebody even to suggest that. But it helps them with their narratives that especially for the Amara elites, it helps them with the narrative to label it as such. They want to label it as such because that supports their narrative to continue to do whatever they want. So no, not at all. This has nothing with Oromo. Actually, if they're talking about the blood, if I compare Abiy Ahmed to Meles Zenawi, probably we had it better under Meles. I'm sorry to say, but probably we had it a little better under Meles. No, Meles never attacked Walaga or Oromia region with a plane or a drone. Yes, he imprisoned and jailed hundreds of thousands of people. Yes. Tortured, caused a lot of atrocities. Yes. But this guy, Abiy, he took it to a different level by bombing his own people. So no, this is not an Oromo government by any stretch.
Great explanation. I usually say that is a fallacy, and I do understand why the non-Oromos describe this government that way, but I don't understand why the Oromos describe this government as an Oromo government, because Oromos have never been in this kind of situation in the entire life, in history. More killings, more imprisonments, more war, destruction, and so on. We have never seen drone attack, air attack, except during longer time in, you know that history. Now, let me give you a chance to advise the entire Oromo people. What do you say about the Oromo people? What's expected of the Oromo people? I see these days we need unity, we need more hope, we need more to be being together than ever before. How do you describe that? I personally feel that we the Oromos fail to be critical in a sense. We need to modernize our politics, we need to unite, we need to stand in one voice. That's why we've been talking about Ali Birra. If you look at his music, the two brothers, why fight between two brothers was a kind of long-term message. And with that, let me give you a chance to advise the Oromo people. What do you expect from the Oromo people as a young advocate, human rights fighter?
Yeah, I think, like I always say, nobody's going to win this war. unless we're united. Nobody's going to win. The government, the PP government, might think they temporarily are winning in power and all that. Whether it's a PP or Oromo as a nation, political parties, the armed struggle, nobody will win. It's going to win this war unless we are united. No political party is going to win anything in Ethiopia, even the armed struggle on their own, unless we are all united, be in one voice, and decide how we would continue to make our case for democracy or liberation, whichever one we choose. So I think I was talking about this. We need to create a free space. We need to create a space for whether it's our intellectuals, the political parties, the people itself. We need to create a free space where we have a genuine conversation, discussion as to where we should head when it comes to our political future. I would say that we are at the lowest point ever politically. The armed struggle is doing much better. It is making a huge progress. I think it is the first in the history of the Oromo armed struggle where the armed struggle have made such a progress that they have made in the last couple of years. That is the only bright side in our politics right now, in Oromo struggle. Our political side is really at its lowest point. We can look at ABAO, OLF, we can look at KAFAO, FC. We are at the lowest in our history where we are powerless. Those two big organizations are minimized down to only capacity they have right now is just writing letters, doing press release when something happens. They are minimized to just writing and doing press releases. So, especially as Oromo, the young generation, we really need to create a free space where we sit down and discuss what we need to do as a nation to go forward. That is the only way we can progress. The way we are now, we're divided based on who we like, who we support. That could be an association, an affiliation by region or by politics, whatever it is. Unless we pass that, there are a huge group that loves Dawood Ibsa and OLF and will protect that at all costs. There are huge majority of Oromo, big section of Oromo, who loves Jawar Muhammad, Bakale Garba, and will do anything to protect them from anything. We are so associated and affiliated with individuals and the political groups to the point we're not willing to sit down and talk to each other. We need to pass that. There is nothing that is going to happen by we dividing ourselves based on political parties, individuals, because that is not going to bring anything. We need to pass that. Let the political party fight. Let the armed struggle go. Let the people sit and talk. If we talk, if we discuss, I think we have a better chance and better future to forge the future for our nation. So dialogue, a free space for dialogue for the people. That is the only future I see. Especially our generation have to say, okay, for 50 years the struggle have been going. Our fathers have done what they could. We have the baton now. Let's sit down and talk and mold the future. If we do that, at least we can make some progress.
Thanks so much. I think we need to unite, organize, and stand together as an Oromo. And the Oromos should struggle against system, not against individuals. And the Oromos should struggle for a system, not for individual. That's a very great remark. And finally, within a split of second, if you have any point to say within 2, 3, 4, let me give you a chance because we're running out of time.
I think the only thing that I would like to add is that hope is everything. And my message to my people is not to lose hope. And the brighter days are ahead of us. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Itefa, as usual. And we conclude our discussion today with Itefa. And if you have critique, professional views, and any comments, the door is open. My name is Hussein Kadir. You can contact me through my Facebook. Profoundly thank you, Itefa.
Thank you. Have a great day.
This is the future of Africa. In this program, we focus on Horn of Africa's political, economic, and socio-cultural aspects. Let's share our vision, hopes, and professional critics. All views are stemmed. Stay with us.